Shields up, Iron Breakers. Rurikhan here coming at you with another video. Welcome back to Monster Hunter, and today we're going to be talking about Monster Hunter Rise. As you guys can imagine, pretty much since this game was announced, my head has just been exploding with hype because, you know, it's a brand new Monster Hunter game that we're going to be getting, and it's actually reasonably soon. It's going to be in March, which, you know, usually games get announced and you have to wait like 1-2 years for them to come out in a lot of cases. So it's really great that they basically announced this game, and now 6 months from now, that's when we're going to be getting it. On top of it, we're also going to be getting some more news about Monster Hunter Rise this week over in the Tokyo Game Show. I'm actually going to be trying to live stream as much of that as I possibly can here on the channel. I just don't know the exact times yet because time zones are confusing, and I've seen some places say, oh yeah, on the 25th it's going to be at 6 p.m. And then I go to the website, and the website says 2 p.m. my time, and it's just a little bit hectic. But as soon as I figure out that scheduling, I'm going to be trying to put up events and stuff on the channel so that if you guys want to watch live with me, we'll be able to do that. But in today's video, I'm going to be talking about a bunch of features that I would like to see in Monster Hunter Rise. Some of these are going to be wishful thinking. There's one particular feature that is pretty much out there, and I'm actually curious to know how you guys would feel about these features, so be sure to let me know in the comment section down below. And also, if you have features that you would like to see in Monster Hunter Rise, leave those in the comment section. If I see enough features in there that I think would be interesting that they were added to the game, I might do a follow-up video to this video with the features that you guys would want to see in Monster Hunter Rise. So hit up that comment section as we go through these, and let me know what you guys think about my suggestions and what suggestions would you have. Anyway, this was just a couple of things that I came up with. So we're going to be starting from the least important ones to the more important ones. And one of the first things that I would like to bring up is the training area. Now, this is something that we've had in Monster Hunter World, and if I'm not mistaken, it was the first Monster Hunter that ever had a training area that just allows you to go in there and smack a couple of barrels, smack the post thing, and figure out your movesets. It's really good for people to try out different weapons and practice and see which weapon they like the most without necessarily being in the middle of a hunt, trying to figure out how the weapon works and all that. And I thought that was really, really good. It was better than the tutorials that we've had in the past, because in the past we also had tutorials where it's like they send you in the arena. For instance, in Generations, Monster Hunter Generations, they would send you to the arena with your weapon, and then you go fight a Great Macau, and it's like, the Great Macau is not necessarily the best monster for you to fight against if you're just trying to figure out a weapon's moveset, because he moves super fast, he jumps up and down, he freaking kicks you, and, you know, he's a little bit annoying. He's also a small target, so it can get annoying if you're trying out a new weapon. So just having that training area there, I think, was really good, and I hope that they move that particular aspect of Monster Hunter forward into pretty much all of the new titles, because I also think it's very good to help people picking out their first weapon, because a lot of people sometimes they come to me and I'm like, hey Rurikhan, what do you think is a good weapon for someone who's just starting out? My advice is always like, you really shouldn't think like that. Why would you want to start with a simple weapon just because it's a good weapon to start out? What you want to do is go into the training area, use all of the weapons, and figure out which one you like the most and start working on that so that you get the muscle memory and all that stuff. And again, the training area is a perfect feature for that to happen. So I hope that they bring that back to Monster Hunter Rise. Now, another thing would be a cool Palico game like for Ultimate. Now, the Palico games have kind of been something that sometimes it's a lot of fun, sometimes it's not as fun, sometimes it's just like, oh, I'm sending out my Palicos, whatever, who cares, right? And I kind of like the Palico minigames, particularly the one in 4U. I thought was really cool. It's a super simple game, rock, paper, scissors type of thing, where like you pick your Palicos based on their abilities, and then it would be like a color code type thing. So you'd have red abilities, yellow abilities, blue abilities, and then you would have like, I don't know, red beats yellow, yellow beats blue, blue beats red. It's probably not exactly like this, but you had something like this. So you would see what the hunt was, then you would plan out the hunt with your Palicos, and then you would get to select which abilities the Palicos would use. It's something very simple, but it makes the act of sending out the Palicos to get supplies and stuff, it makes that act be a little bit more interactive, and personally I really like that. It's, you know, in this game we had the Tail Raiders. I think it's Tail Raiders, right? Yeah, it's the Tail Raider system, where I actually stopped using it after I got some of the stuff that I wanted out of it. But It's like that system is not as interesting to me because basically it's like, oh yeah, pick the tail raiders. You just pick the ones that had the highest stats, send them out, and they'll go do the mission. They'll come back with materials. I like having something a little bit more interactive there. Even the canon thing with Monster Hunter Generations Ultimate was more interesting, but the best one that we've had so far was hands down the 4 Ultimate one, at least in my opinion. Let me know what you guys think about that. Let me know what you guys think about the little Palico minigames. But that's just, again, I'm starting with the least important features, all right? Another thing that I would like to have is another traditional farm. Like, and what do I mean by this? For those of you that only played in Monster Hunter World, you'll only have known about the Botany Center. Is that what they called it? I actually forgot what it was called. The place where you go and you tell the dude, okay, dude, get me some green herbs, get me some blue mushrooms, get me some honey. You just select the stuff and then he just cultivates it as you go out on hunts, right? Well, in previous Monster Hunter games, you actually had a farm, and you would go to the farm, and then you would have like little things, little patches of land. It's like, oh, here is where you select what you want to do with the herbs. Here is where you select what you want to do with the honey and stuff. I liked that, and I'm actually curious to hear you guys' opinion. But I liked having that space, and you'd actually see the felines work in the fields and stuff. And I thought that was cool. I'm thinking mostly of Freedom Unite here. I like that little area that you had, and I get it. People, they just want to go hunt, and the more you can simplify that and just have a menu, because I remember in 4U you also had a menu. It's basically like, oh, here's your, go trade some stuff. Instead of actually having a farm, you'd have these traders, and it was the same thing in Generations Ultimate. You'd have like a trader, and the trader would go and they would go work the fields, but the fields weren't there. I think there's a more personal connection to seeing the farm kind of like grow and expand. And seeing like, oh, now you can plant more things, and now you have this better fertilizer to put on it. And I'd like to see a little bit more of that. Like, I don't want a super complicated system. Like, I don't want this to become friggin', I forget the name of those farming games. I don't want this to become Farming Simulator or the other game that everybody's playing. What's it called? It's something Valley. Good God, sleep deprivation's gonna kill me. But anyway, yeah. I'd like to see a more traditional farm in the vein of Freedom Unite. Let me know what you guys think about that. Now, this next one is bound to ruffle a couple of feathers, but this was actually something that I was talking with my buddy Kegrin, and it's something that I do feel a little bit strongly about, and this is actually removing a quality of life feature that came with Monster Hunter World. And this one, I'm really curious to know what you guys think about this. But what if we did not have the ability to refresh our items during a hunt? I feel like that aspect of the game has taken away a lot of the pressure on some hunts, where it's like you're hunting a monster, and you made a lot of mistakes, and you went through all of your healing items, and you're like, well, I'll just head back to camp, refresh, boom, good to go. I think it would be way cooler if you couldn't do that. It would be more challenging. It would be more about you being prepared when you head out into the field. And look, I'm the guy that a lot of times makes tons of mistakes. Like, I'll go into the field without eating because I forget, and it's like, oh, I'll just go back and eat. It's not a problem. And I realize that this is a big quality of life thing that they added into Monster Hunter World. But at the same time, it also essentially makes the game a lot easier. And people can say, oh, you don't have to go back and you don't have to do those things. You can, it's an option that you have if you want to go there and if you want to swap weapons, if you want to do whatever. And I've done it multiple times myself. Like, the feature is there. It's like, oh, well, maybe I'll just use sword and shield instead because this particular weapon isn't really working. But I think that there's something a little bit more, I don't know. I don't know how to tell you. It feels more authentic when you go into the field and you actually have to prepare before you go into the field. It adds more to the simulation aspect of Monster Hunter World. Now, I'm not saying that Monster Hunter. I'm not saying that Monster Hunter needs to be this super realistic sim game and whatever. But I feel like that is a big aspect of Monster Hunter. It's not just about you going in there and fighting a boss, right? It's about simulating what it's like to hunt a monster, to be a monster hunter. It's about simulating what the environment is going to be like when you go there, and you have to eat food to keep your stamina up. You have to heal yourself when you get damaged. You have to study the monster's patterns to figure out if he's tired, if he's going to run to his lair, what's his next move. And I kind of feel like preparing before you go into a hunt is kind of like a big part of that, and we lost a bit of that with the quality of life stuff that was added in Monster Hunter World. I understand if a lot of you don't agree with this particular feature, in terms of like, what do you mean no item refresh? You're crazy, dude. I love item refresh. Great quality of life. I understand, okay? And this is not something that I feel super strongly for, but it is something that I think could be interesting. Now, naturally, if there's a situation like Guiding Lands, some kind of a system similar to that where you have to hunt multiple monsters in the same map, in those situations, yeah, you should be able to refresh your items because, like, dude, you're hunting like 20, 30, 50 monsters depending on how long you're out there. And in that situation, sure, you should refresh your items. But, like, I also think it was interesting sometimes when you're really just pushing yourself to the limit, and this monster's a little bit tougher and maybe your gear's not quite up to snuff, and you're like, oh man, I gotta really think out, do I want to heal right now? Do I want to wait for the next hit before I heal? And then even just running out and you just going, oh, maybe I'll just back away for now, and I'll try to go find some herbs and scavenge some honey and craft some mega potions and stuff like that. I thought that was a cool aspect in previous games for you to actually scavenge materials while you're in the hunt. But, it's not something that I'm super passionate about. Now, this next feature I am somewhat passionate about. No sticky nonsense. Like, I'm sorry, dude. Monster Hunter World took sticky ammunition to a completely ridiculous level. In my opinion, they're just flat out broken. And I'll tell you why. I actually think that stickies should potentially deal more damage, but they should not deal as much KO damage as they do, because there's so many monsters that are just made completely obsolete by the fact that the user can go in there with a sticky bowgun and boom, done. Like, you'll see, for instance, Kushala Daora, a monster that everybody's like, oh my god, tornadoes, Jesus, Kushala Daora is a pain to fight. You put a sticky bowgun in there and Kushala Daora is just nothing. It's trivial. It's literally trivial because you just keep shooting him in the head. And, he goes up, he comes down. He goes up, he comes down. You goes up, boom, done. It's like super easy, super trivial, because that particular type of ammunition in bowguns is just completely and utterly broken. And I don't think that there's even, anyone that can argue against that. And not only that, but it makes it really sad for me to see that, the best weapon for stunning and KOing a monster is not the hammer. The hammer, the supposed KO king. No, the KO kings are the bowguns. And I really hope that that's something that we don't see again. Like, I feel like bowguns are always the most powerful weapons in pretty much every single Monster Hunter game. And, that's okay, sure, have your clusters, deal a ton of damage and whatever. But just like the sticky stuff, I really feel like it went way too far. They just went way too far, and it was just completely and utterly broken. And I know that a lot of bowgun mains out there are going to be real mad about this. They're like, what do you mean? Stickies are amazing. I love stickies. It's like, yeah, do you like playing the game, though? Or do you just like, murdering the monsters without them even having a chance to fight back? Okay, this next one is super, super important, and I do feel extremely strong about it. No RNG weapons. What do I mean by this? I'm talking about no master rank Kolv system. Please, no more master rank Kolv like systems. The way that worked in that loot system, and I already said I don't like it. I like the hunt itself. I thought the hunt itself was a lot of fun. I thought the whole having the lobby with 16 people and everybody's contributing to the hunt, the siege aspect of it, I thought was brilliant. I thought it was really cool. But when it came to the rewards of Kolv to Roth, I friggin' hated it. Like, I would actually have fun during the whole fight, and then when it got to the rewards part, I was just like, I hate this part. I hate it. Because, you know, at the start, it's whatever, because you're just trying to get as many weapons as possible. But when you're looking for that one weapon, like in my case, where I wanted to have the wide shelling level 4, when Clove to Wrath first came around, and I spent 2 weeks doing nothing else in Monster Hunter World but hunting Clove to Wrath because it was a timed event. And I needed to have the wide channeling level 4 if I wanted to try out that playstyle for real. I spent 2 weeks grinding that thing into oblivion. And then the next time it came around, I spent a whole bunch of more time trying to get the next batch of weapons. And it just adds something to the game that I feel really doesn't belong there. One of the coolest aspects of Monster Hunter's loot is the fact that, hey, I want the big fire sword. Go fight the big fire wyvern. Boom, done. That's what you gotta do, you know? And in the case of Clove to Wrath type systems, it's like, hey, I want to have this weapon. And the game's like, good luck pulling that weapon from a pool of about 200 weapons. I don't remember how many weapons were there at the start. So good luck with that. And dude, I did so many Clove to Wrath hunts that I ended up hating the event eventually because I burned out on it so hard that the reward system on it just made me really not like it. So I really don't want to see another RNG weapon-like system. Like, there's places for RNG, whether you choose to do it through the charm system or through the decoration system. I know that a lot of people prefer RNG on charms as opposed to RNG on decorations. For those of you that don't know, in previous Monster Hunter games, you would be able to craft decorations, and then what would be random is instead of you getting random decos like we're getting in World, it would be the charms. The charms would be random with, you know, random skills and whatnot. I really don't have a particular preference when it comes to that. I could do either way, or I could have some kind of other type of randomness elsewhere. But the weapons, dude, like, no. I don't want to be in a situation where there's a pool of 200 weapons and you hunt this monster, there's a chance for you to get one of them. No. Safi Jiva was a little bit more palatable because you had a little bit more control over the weapons that you were getting and the stats that you were putting on those weapons. It gave you a little bit more control, even though the awakened abilities were also extremely RNG. There were better ways of doing the awakened abilities, in my opinion, but ultimately, it's like, sure, if you have to do either or, do something more like Safi, which was way more interesting than Clove to Wrath. But ideally, neither. Ideally, no RNG nonsense, because again, that's one of the best things about Monster Hunter, is that it rewards you according to what you want. It's like, oh, I want to go get this set of armor from this monster. You go hunt that monster until you have enough parts, and then you bring the parts and you craft the armor. That's the way to do it. Having these RNG-like rewards, I think, is actually bad for the game. And now, this next feature that I want to talk about is going to be one of the most out there features. It's something that we've never seen in a Monster Hunter game, and it's something that I brought up multiple times while I was playing Monster Hunter World, and that is the concept of loot trading. And some of you guys are like, whoa, 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 whoa. What do you mean? You want me to give my loot to a new hunter and just have him skip progress? No. That's not what I'm talking about at all. I've talked about this in some of my live streams. Some of you guys will be aware. And this is another one of those features that I really want to know what you guys think about. I think this would be really, really interesting. Now, the way this feature would work is when you are at the reward screen, right? Not when you're in town. In town, this would not work. You would not be able to go grind a monster by yourself and then bring the parts to a friend. No good. You'd have to take your friend on a hunt, and your friend would have to contribute significantly to that hunt. I mean, I'm sure they'd keep track of damage somewhere. Like see how much damage a player did if he contributed to the hunt. Basically, if he was actually hunting the monster during the hunt and not just like sitting in camp doing nothing. So 2 players, they're both hunting the monster, and they're both contributing towards the hunt. And then you get to the reward screen, you both carve what you carved, and then when you get to the reward screen, you have all of the rewards there indicating like, hey, you got this amount of monster bones, you got this amount of wings, you got this amount of gems. You know, when you're sitting at that screen, you would be able to send items to other players. Maybe limit it, maybe be able to send like 2 or 3 items, something like that. and the other players to be able to send items to you, but only at the reward screen and only after you successfully hunt the monster. I think that would be cool because a lot of times, you know, at least I know that I've been in this situation where I'm helping out a friend hunting something, or a friend is helping me out hunting something, and we're trying to get a specific material, and then your friend gets the material that you want, but they don't need it, or you get the material that your friend wants, but you don't need it. Like, wouldn't it be cool if you could just be like, hey dude, hey, here, I got it in my reward section. Here you go. We both hunted this thing. We can exchange this. It would actually diminish the RNG aspect a little bit if you're playing with friends and you'd be able to trade stuff. I know that this could potentially be abused by some people. It would be a feature that we'd have to keep a close eye on. But then again, people are also save editing in Monster Hunter World, even on the PlayStation 4. So is it really that big of a deal? Like, just being able to do it legit through in-game systems, I think that would be pretty cool. So that would definitely be something that I would like to see. And I realize that, again, this feature is pretty much out there. It's completely out there. It's something that they've never really done, at least that I'm aware of, in Monster Hunter. But I think it would be a way for you to, like, you know, to incentivize you to play more with friends as opposed to playing solo, and being able to trade these pieces with other players. I think it'd be cool. But let me know what you guys think about it. So when it comes to skills for this next feature, I wish that they would stick with the new skill system. The skill system where it's like, no, this piece of armor gives you this thing. And I realize it's simpler, because back in the day, for those of you that don't know, the way that you get skills, I've explained this in previous videos, is like you'd have to stack a certain skill all the way up to 10. So you'd have pieces of armor that would give you +3 attack. And then you'd have other pieces of armor that would give you like +3 defense, and you'd have to stack it all the way up to 10. So you'd have to get enough pieces of armor or enough decorations to stack the attack skill up to 10 to get the first effect. Then you stack it up to 15 to get the second effect. And I think attack goes up to 20 or 25. I'm not 100% sure. But you would have to stack those skills. And sometimes it was confusing, particularly for newer players. I remember when I was starting out, I was like, oh yeah, dude, this armor gives +4 attack. And then I would equip the armor, and it would actually not do anything because, you know, it would only give you attack if you stacked it all the way up to 10. I think the new skill system is much more beginner-friendly, and it is also something that you can kind of min-max even if you're a veteran. So I think the new skill system is way better than the old ones, but, you know, I'm sure that there are a couple of veterans out there that's like, no, I like the old system way better because it was more complicated. I don't know why you would like the old system better, but again, let me know. This next one, also extremely important. An extremely important thing is better elemental damage implementation. We talked about elemental damage, how elemental damage in Monster Hunter has always been somewhat weird because raw damage pretty much always takes the cake unless, you know, you're using certain specific weapons. But I just feel like they need a better elemental damage implementation overall. Particularly, I feel like the Alatreon fight really revealed that, because a big portion of the player base just has no idea how to play with elements because, I mean, sure, they know, oh yeah, sure, I'll get a weapon that does elemental damage. But ultimately, a majority of the player base is just used to, no, raw damage beats all, right? This is all about the raw damage. That's what really matters. And I think it would be cool if we had some kind of different elemental damage system, potentially even being able to provoke elemental blights on monsters, and maybe that could kind of like justify the fact that elemental damage does less damage than raw damage. I don't know. I just like to see some kind of more, a couple of more advantages to using the correct element against a monster. Whereas if you go to World, there's a lot of situations where what you get is the opposite. Like the thing will say, oh yeah, this monster is 3 stars weak to this thing, but it doesn't actually tell you about hit zones or anything like that. So in a majority of cases, even if you align yourself with the proper element, you would be way better off just dealing raw damage. Hell, even in Alatreon, you can actually deal more damage to Alatreon if you use raw damage. Like, I kid you not, you can deal more damage to Alatreon if you use raw damage than if you use elemental damage. You'll get killed because of the Eschaton judgment, but you will deal more damage with raw damage, which I think is ridiculous. Like, this whole fight is around elemental damage, and raw damage is still king when it comes to actually killing the monster. You know, I just don't think that makes a lot of sense. Now, this next feature, I'm like 90% sure is going to be implemented, but I just like to make sure that it is, and it is ad hoc play. Now, this is very important when you have games that are running on handheld platforms, and basically what that means, for those who don't know, ad hoc play is like you can just say you and your friend have a Switch, but you're not necessarily connected to the internet. You'd be able to play with each other without connecting to the internet. You'd be able to just connect your consoles together wirelessly and just play together without going to the web. The first time that I was actually introduced to this was really late because I didn't really have a lot of handhelds besides, I don't know, I had a Game Boy, a Game Gear, I think. And then the next thing that I got was a Vita. Poor Vita. Anyway, I was a friend of mine had a PlayStation Portable. I had a Vita, and we both played Monster Hunter Freedom Unite together through ad hoc. I was like, oh, that's really cool. You don't need a network. You don't need anything. You just have the two consoles. They talk to each other. Boom, Bob's your uncle. And yeah, I think that's cool. I hope that they do that. I hope that they don't force you like, hey, if I'm at my friend's place and we both have Switches, yeah, you both need to have Nintendo Online or whatever to play. And I'm like, no. I want the consoles to be able to connect to each other. You can do this for a couple of games right now, I believe. I think you can do it with Pokemon. What else? You can do it with Generations Ultimate for sure. I definitely did that. So I believe it'll probably have ad hoc play, but I just like that aspect of it to be there. And I'm almost 90% sure that it will be there because this is also a big deal in Japan, I think. People playing through ad hoc, not necessarily being connected to the internet. But, you know, that is definitely something that I would like to see. Now, the next feature is multiplayer / single player split. Now, for those of you that don't know, in previous Monster Hunter games, you would have different quests for the single player and the multiplayer portion of Monster Hunter. And that's something that I don't want to see come back. I really like that in World, you could basically do every quest together with a friend, as opposed to like, no, we have to do the village quests, which then unlock further quests at the hub, which then after you do some more quests at the hub, it unlocks more village quests, and you keep going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And it's like, I really like that in World, everything's like more unified, and it's like, hey, you can do these quests either in single player or multiplayer. Go to town. I don't like the village / gathering hub separation when it comes to quests. And I hope that that is something that stays the way that it was in World. Yeah, there's really not much else to that feature. I just hope that they do that and they don't go back to like, no, there's the village quest, gathering hub quests, and then this village quest is this amount of stars, and this hub quest is that amount of stars, and it was actually really confusing. Finally, now we're getting to the big juicy ones, the last two. New weapon types. This is a big ask. This is a very big ask, but I would like to see new weapon types. The reason why this is such a big ask is because it's already extremely hard to balance around 14 different weapon types. I believe there are 14. I didn't even count them, but whatever. You guys know there's a ton of weapon types in this game, and balancing that stuff around in order to make sure that every weapon gets their moment in the limelight is probably hard enough. But at the same time, I want to see a new weapon type. It's been a while since we've seen a new weapon type. I doubt we will see it though, because usually when you get these weapon types, you get them at the start of a new generation, and this game is essentially still in the 5th generation, I guess. It's the Monster Hunter generation we're in. This game is still, technically speaking, the 5th generation. The next Monster Hunter game, which is probably going to be in the home consoles, that one's going to be in the next. That will be the next generation of Monster Hunter, and that would be probably where they would introduce new weapons. But still, a man can dream, right? I think it'd be cool if we got like 1 or 2 new weapon types to play around with. But you know. And finally, the most important one for me is I would like to see more monsters than we saw in World. Now, this is not to say that World didn't have enough monsters. The reason why I talk about this is specifically because in Monster Hunter World, they had to do the monsters a lot more detailed. They had to really create the models pretty much from scratch. I mean, sure, they're based around existing models and all that, but they had to redo them, give them a ton of additional detail to make sure that everything just kind of works and looks good when you're fighting these monsters up and close. They also have to do really, polished animations for it. and all that jazz. And naturally, with the Switch version, you're not going to need models that are as detailed as the ones that we had in Monster Hunter World, because I mean, let's face it, the Switch is not a powerhouse when it comes to visuals. As a matter of fact, I believe that they're shooting for 30 FPS with this game, so it's not going to run super mega fast to begin with. And it is actually using the same engine as Monster Hunter World, so you can actually bring a lot of the monsters. At least I believe that that's the case. I think I saw somewhere that they're using the RE engine. But anyway, using that same engine, I feel like that would make it easier for you to port over assets of stuff that you already have. So like the monsters in Monster Hunter World would be easier to implement in this game. And at the same time, because the models don't need to be as detailed as they were in Monster Hunter World, you can also bring back a lot of older monsters. You can also create a lot more monsters, because I'm assuming it wouldn't be as much work to make them in this game. Again, because the textures are not going to be as detailed and all of that. I could be wrong, but that would be something that I would very much like to see a bigger roster, and more importantly, a more diverse roster in terms of species. Because I mean, let's face it, Monster Hunter World, more like Monster Hunter Wyvern World, because most of the monsters that we got there were Wyvern. I mean, you got beasts when it came to Rajang. What else did we get? I mean, I know that I'm probably going to be forgetting something because I'm sleep deprived, as I always am. But, you know, I want to see a bigger variety. And one of the things that we see in the trailer is that there's going to be at least an arachnid, which I initially mentioned in my first video that was Nursilla, but it was later pointed out to me that that was in fact not Nursilla because of some of the monster features that actually are different, which means that it's either a subspecies, a variant, or a completely new arachnid type monster. We also have the Tetranodon, I think that's the name of it, which is an amphibian. So I already believe that we're going to be seeing more variety in terms of the monster types, but I really want to see some of those bug monsters also come back. And one that I think is going to be a pretty obvious choice to return here would be Atalka. I want to see Atalka so bad, dude. I loved the GU Atalka fight. I thought it was friggin' amazing, and it was completely unforgettable. Basically, this friggin' golden mantis-like monster that yeets yeets Ferris wheels at you and friggin' summons a mecha and then stomps you with it. Like, I thought that was really cool, and I would like to see an updated version of that fight, which basically became one of my favorite fights ever in Monster Hunter. So, yeah. But those were just some of the features that I would like to see in Monster Hunter Rise. What features would you like to see in Monster Hunter Rise? And what do you think about some of the features that were discussed in this video? Let me know in the comment section down below. Thank you all very much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button. If you did not enjoy this video, hit the dislike button, because feedback is important. I'll see you guys in the next one. Stay strong, stay safe, peace out.